Well, look, if it isn't a My First Tube Amp kit, the xDuoo TA-02. Now, this runs about $113 on Amazon. And I bought it on a whim, and I'm going to use it in my giveaway on Patreon. But it is not a real tube amp. Many tube amps are not real tube amps. In order to have a real tube amp, you need power. And I'm not talking about, Goku sort of power. I'm talking about this here. This is a 12 volt 2 amp transformer. And to make tubes do things, you need like 600 volts. Hundreds of volts. You know the old CRT televisions that I don't have any here and it really depresses me? Yeah, those had like thousands of volts to make the tube work. So when you're running 12 volt 2 amps into tiny little tubes, you're not doing anything with them. So essentially this is not a tube amp. Here it is. Here is the TA-03. So this is $113. That is $350. You see that giant black box behind those three massive tubes? That's the transformer that turns wall power into 600 volts. This won't do that. So put this out of your head right now as a tube amp. I did direct A/B comparisons right here. I'll have a link in the description showing the picture of the setup where I had my XDA2 DAC coming down split, both input at the same exact time, both of these outputting to my little Sescom switcher, HD 600s, both volume adjusted, and I'm going to click, 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 no sound difference. So what does that tell me? That tells me two things. One, the tubes aren't doing anything to the signal. Two, this is actually a very good headphone amp because this is my favorite headphone amp. And if I can't discern a difference between it, obviously whatever it is doing, it's doing right. So let me say for $110 or $113, oh my God. This is probably still going to be my choice. Now, this does have cool glowing tubes. And I don't know, maybe you can modify it in some way to make it sound. Here's the thing. I've only used solid state amps. Alright? Solid state, every type of amp. Speaker amp, headphone amp, amps. And I want to try a tube amp that fucks it up. Alright? I wanted this to sound just different. Just straight up, blowing the mid-range out of proportion, making the bass wonky. I wanted it to be, I would give it a positive review if it sounded different and cost the same amount as this. Because then you'd have a reason to have both. You'd be like, oh, I want to hear absolutely clean, accurate sound. And I want to hear just out of its mind, laggy, weird separation anomaly. I want it to sound tubey. And it doesn't sound tubey at all. So what's the point of getting this if you can get the same out of this and then you got a high-low gain switch and you could put a dock and it has pre-outs and it has all these other features and it's also got a bigger 12, it's a 15 in instead of 12. So there's no, anyone watching this video, there's no reason to buy this if you want a tube amp. If you just want a headphone amp and you happen to be in town or someone offers you to sell one of these for cheap, under 100, it is as good a headphone amp as this. It just isn't a tube amp. Not even close. High performance stereo tube headphone amp. Bullshit. Let's see what it says on the page. The double 6JI tube for preamp. So preamp. They're talking about preamp. It's not even amp. Making sweet voice and exquisite. Semicolon. Adopt transistors for Class A buffer, so it can easily drive any kind of low resistance earphones with strong load capacity. Japanese ELNA red capacitance specifically for audio enthusiasts making sound through and sweet, semicolon. Adopt Japanese ELNA red capacitance as the main filter capacitance, making sound soft and warm, high frequency, and magnificent. I was sold. I'm sold. But maybe you're not. So, yeah. I'm giving this away. It is a perfectly good headphone amp. It is just not a perfectly good tube headphone amp. I mean, this is probably, considering how it sound tested against this is probably still better than the SAP2 that I used to have. Because when I did the AB against the SAP2 and my FIO here, the FIO beat it. So since I can't tell the two of these apart on my 600s, it is as good a solid-state headphone amp as my FIO E09 is. That's the highest praise you can give something. I just wish it wasn't. I wish it was worse. I wish it was different. I didn't buy it to buy a copy of this. I bought it to buy a crazy, whacked-out, drug fiend, guy with a beard tube amp. I wanted that tube sound, and the tube sound doesn't show up. So, eventually I'm going to have to go buy another tube amp, and I'm either going to have to spend a lot more, or I'm going to have to make it myself. And I want it to be absolutely memorable. I want to plug it into, I want to listen to all my headphones anew. See, that's the thing, get a good headphone amp, it's slightly better than your last one, and, you listen to everything again, wow. But when you get something that's completely whacked out, that just takes it for a ride, oh my god, the left bass is now up in the sky, and I can feel it, and I can see colors. That's what I want. I want a really just destructive tube amp that makes everything interesting and different. Even if it's wrong, that's what I want. So this doesn't provide me with that, weird high that I'm after. So in the competition between these two, save yourself $4.